О, летит! Летит!
Ukrainian military intelligence operators, using attack drones, targeted and destroyed a Russian fuel train in the occupied part of Zaporizhzhia Oblast. Ukraine's defense intelligence reported that precision strikes were carried out on the moving train along the Verkhny Tokmak-Molochansk-Fedorivka railway section. At least 3 fuel tanks were destroyed, disrupting the railway supply line used by Russian forces in occupied Zaporizhzhia Oblast and annexed Crimea. The attack also damaged the railway line, hampering the Russian military's ability to quickly transfer fuel and equipment through the region and into Crimea. Russian forces rely heavily on rail transport to supply their units in southern Ukraine, particularly through occupied areas of Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk regions. Moscow is currently constructing a new rail connection linking Rostov-on-Don and Crimea via Berdyansk to reduce dependence on the Crimean Bridge and secure alternative supply routes. The DIU added that Russia also plans to reopen freight links with Melitopol and upgrade the Mariupol-Rostov-on-Don railway line. Militarny previously reported that in the first 2 weeks of December 2024, a series of sabotage attacks on the railway took place in Russia. The railway track was blown up and 5 locomotives were burned. In December 2024, a wave of sabotage attacks targeted railway infrastructure inside Russia. On December 14th, an explosion destroyed part of a railway bridge in Ulyanovsk. A day earlier, 3 locomotives were disabled in an arson attack in Krasnodar. On December 5th, a fire at a depot in Bryansk destroyed 2 mainline diesel locomotives used by Russian forces. Russian fighters in Crimea are repelling an attack by Ukrainian drones.
О, летит! Летит! Летит, как твою раз! Дай команду нам! Ебать! Еще летит! Еще спереди вон! Сюда!
This is what Kyiv lives through. Local news channels posted this video commenting that people were on their way to a shelter when this was filmed. Precision strike by the Gimli Division anti-tank unit of Ukraine's 117th Separate Heavy Mechanized Brigade. On May 23rd, near the village of Popiv Yar, a Russian vehicle was destroyed using a Stugna P ATGM system. Stugna P is a Ukrainian-made anti-tank system. Ukraine brought home 303 prisoners of war on May 25th in the final phase of a 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner exchange with Russia, President Volodymyr Zelensky announced. The prisoner exchange took place in 3 phases, carried out over 3 days, and was agreed on during peace talks held in Turkey on May 16th, the first direct negotiations between Ukraine and Russia in 3 years. I thank the team that worked around the clock to successfully carry out this exchange. We will definitely bring back every single one of our people from Russian captivity, Zelensky wrote in a post on X. The returning prisoners included members of Ukraine's armed forces, National Guard, State Border Guard Service, and State Special Transport Service, Zelensky stated. Ukraine's coordination headquarters for the treatment of POWs said that the released prisoners included 70 men who had defended Mariupol during the Russian siege of the port city in 2022. The coordination headquarters added that 5,757 Ukrainian prisoners had been returned through negotiations and exchanges since March 2022, while another 536 Ukrainians had returned through other means. The prisoner exchange was the only concrete agreement to arise out of the direct talks held last week. Ukraine and the United States have been pushing for Russia to agree to an unconditional ceasefire, but Russia categorically rejected the appeal in Turkey, according to First Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine Serhiy Kyslytsya, who attended the talks as a member of the Ukrainian delegation. Residents of Russia share their honest opinions on whether the country needs new territories. The more, the better. All for me, all for Russia. Russia will break everything over its knee. Why? It'll be fun.
Does Russia need more new territories in addition to those we currently have?
Yes? Yes, preferably Ukrainian ones. Preferably somewhere up to, probably up to Spain from Europe. And overall, everything would be fucked. The most important thing is to connect the high-speed rail, Odessa-Barcelona. Like this one, and Moscow to Odessa also subson.
So they would travel. Moscow, Odessa, and like that.
It's not important. Moscow-Barcelona. Train. So there would be something like Moscow-Paris. So that they would run every 20 minutes and at 5 million kilometers per hour. So they would travel. Well, that's all for my modest wishes.
I think there's enough territory for now.
Not for me.
And you?
I think that, yes, of course, it would be great if our country becomes even larger.
Territories, they are always needed.
But why?
What for? The country should not give away wealth, but take for itself.
What do you mean only give away? We've already given away heaven knows how much.
Territory of their own native Russian. We need to take back what's ours. Know which ones, just our own. The original, ancestral ones. Take them back, that's it. Not give them away.
To the right, to the left, like some civilians.
Well, nothing in between, is there? Why do we need new territories? Can't we come to an agreement? New territories are acquired through war. And why do people need war?
I don't know. Countries strive to expand. It's a natural need, like in a family, they strive to have children to grow.
New territories, more than we already have.
The more the better. All for me. All for Russia. All Russia. We'll break everyone over the knee.
Why?
It will be fun.
Russian President Vladimir Putin remains confident he will secure an ultimate victory in Ukraine despite Moscow's participation in ongoing peace negotiations, according to a newly released report from the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency. Prepared for the U.S. House of Representatives, the assessment says Putin views the war as an existential struggle against the West and an effort to restore the prestige and global influence that he believes Russia lost when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. The report, based on intelligence available as of May 11, 2025, states that despite Moscow engaging in U.S.-brokered peace talks, Putin almost certainly is committed to victory in Ukraine, and that his strategic goals have remained mostly unchanged since the full-scale invasion began in 2022. This aligns with concerns in Kiev that Russia may be using the peace process to buy time and seize more Ukrainian territory, aiming to impose its preferred terms in any future negotiated settlement. On Thursday, the Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. President Donald Trump privately told European leaders that Putin has no intention of ending the war, believing he is on a winning path. The remarks reportedly came during a call on Monday with key European leaders, including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, French President Emmanuel Macron, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Washington, which has held separate talks with Russia and Ukraine since February, has recently expressed doubts about the possibility of reaching a quick resolution to the conflict, now in its third year. The report outlines Putin's main demands as a permanent ban on Ukraine joining NATO and the complete withdrawal of Ukrainian military forces from the eastern regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson. It adds that Putin is prepared to use military force at least through 2025 to achieve these objectives. The report says Moscow is likely to avoid direct confrontation with NATO due to its depleted military strength. It adds that since 2022, Russia has lost over 10,000 ground combat vehicles, including more than 3,000 tanks. Losses also include nearly 250 aircraft and helicopters and more than 10 naval vessels. U.S. estimates place Russian military casualties above 700,000. As a result of the war, Russia's capabilities to deter, fight, or militarily compete with NATO are likely to be degraded for at least the next 3 years, the report says. However, while it may lack the ability to take on NATO head-on, the DIA warns that Moscow remains fully capable of employing asymmetric capabilities against the United States and allies, including cyber and information campaigns. It adds that Russia has also intensified its efforts to destabilize Europe, aiming to undermine Western cohesion and support to Ukraine. Earlier, a report by the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre found that Russia attempted to infiltrate surveillance systems in European states, including Poland, as part of a sweeping cyber campaign aimed at disrupting Western aid supplies to Ukraine. The DIA says that Putin is prepared to pursue a strategy of attrition through at least the end of the year, believing that Russia can outlast both Ukraine's resources and Western resolve. The Russian communists have also returned to Russia as part of the first prisoner exchange. Tomorrow, it's either another assault or prison for surrendering. Russian soldiers released from Ukrainian captivity are often sent straight back to the front lines. Military command forbids surrender, labeling it betrayal. Those who return face punishment or forced redeployment under threat. And from the other news, Spain is the only NATO member that has not endorsed a plan for the entire alliance to commit to spending 5% of GDP on defense by 2032, according to the Financial Times. Madrid is under growing pressure to support the target, which would allow NATO to present a unified commitment at the defense ministers' meeting in Brussels on June. The 5% threshold has become a key demand of U.S. President Donald Trump, who has warned he may withdraw U.S. protection from countries that fail to meet the target. Diplomats are racing to secure unanimous backing for the pledge ahead of a NATO summit in The Hague on June 24th. Many allies hope the commitment will persuade Trump to maintain U.S. security guarantees for Europe. However, Spanish officials have not confirmed their support. Without Spain's endorsement, the alliance would be unable to issue a unified statement, potentially weakening internal cohesion and complicating summit preparations. The proposal, put forward by NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, outlines that 3.5% of the 5% should go to core defense expenditures, while the remaining 1.5% would cover areas such as cybersecurity and defense-related infrastructure. Members would aim to meet the full target by 2032. FT notes that no NATO member currently spends 5% of GDP on defense under the current alliance criteria. However, two officials shared that the 3.5% benchmark is more significant, as most NATO countries already spend roughly 1.5% on ancillary defense categories. Bernardo Navazo, founder of the Madrid-based consultancy Geopolitical Insights, said that it will be very difficult for countries like Spain and Italy to gain 5% support from their populations in an environment where people do not feel directly threatened, even if leaders say the EU faces a security threat from Russia. NATO members agreed to raise defense spending to 2% of GDP at the Warsaw Summit in 2016. As of 2024, 23 of the 32 NATO members have met that target, a notable increase from 2022, when only 7 had done so. Overall, defense spending among NATO allies rose more than 33% in real terms from 2022 to 2024. Despite spending more on defense than any other NATO country, the United States is the only member whose defense spending as a share of GDP has declined over the past decade. According to the Congressional Budget Office, that trend is expected to continue, with spending projected to fall from 2.9% of GDP in 2025 to 2.4% in 2035.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.